They're yours. Hit that one more time. I am the number one determinant of the success or failure. Here we go. Of my student. Hey, y'all, you have a strong summer. Kick some butt next year. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you. That's the mindset. That's the attitude. Love you guys.
And we are live. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Let me see who I got in here today. We got Mila's Vlog Life. This was the first one. This was actually here before I even got on. Welcome. Yolanda McKinney's in the building. John Few, Demetrius Scott, my brother. You know I'm going to be down there at that class conference in Birmingham on Tuesday. So I think you said you're going to be there. No, is it Tuesday? Whatever day it is. I think it's Tuesday. Marsha Poe is in the building. Janine Wilkins is in the building. Tony McClenny is in the building, man. My numbers just jumped, man. I lost a lot of y'all. Hang on. Let me get back in that sequence. Here we go. My man, Principal Otis Kitchens in the building. Facebook users in the building. You better put your name on there. Ohio Girl Jones is in the building. My wife, the Queen, Kimberly Broughton Kafele is in the building. Y'all know we just did 33 years celebration of the marriage. What we do? We went to see Tina, y'all, on the anniversary, man. That what a play. Y'all got to go see that. I know most of you are not in New York, but come on to New York and you got to go see that one, man. That thing was like, it exceeded expectations. Let's put it that way. Marino Moran is in the building. Cynthia Farmer's in the building. Valencia Jones McCoy, Takesha High, Alan Cowart, Will Turner, John Herricks, Marguerite Simpson, Lackard, Rashad Davis. They're all in the building. Lee Henderson, Rodney Richardson, Jocelyn Nelson, Jessica Hanna. As you come in, hit that share button for me, hit that retweet button, and let me know where you're coming from. We got a big one today, y'all. We got Nyerka Coy Bush, Melissa Jones Chunu. Happy birthday, man. Let me tell you, today is Melissa Jones. I hope I'm pronouncing her last name correctly. Chunu's birthday. I saw it on Facebook this morning, and I was thinking to myself, I wonder if she's going to log on today on her birthday. And here she is on her birthday, holding it down in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We got Jasmine Harris in the building. Principal Siobhan Jackson in the building. Lysandra Brackens is in the building. Stacy Mabry is in the building. She's going to be my guest soon too, y'all. That's going to be a big one because Stacy Mabry got that energy, man. So that's going to be a big one. So y'all look out for that. It's coming up soon. I don't know the date, but it's coming up. Let me see. I had a big jump in people again. So I lost some of you. Hang on. Where we at? We got, I said those. Lysandra Bracken, Stacy Mabry, D. Walker, Shahara Blackshear is in the building. Crystal Rose is in the building. Champion Principal is in the building. Hey, man, I won't put all the business on Front Street, but I did see that poster. So you know I'm wishing much success to you. Right, much success to you. That's huge. Just being on the poster is huge, but it'd be even bigger if it goes to that next level. Wendy Chinchilla is in the building. Lee Henderson, Demetri. I got the MPA Jaguar. That's my man, Josh Tovar. We got my man, Andre Benito Mountain, who was a guest not too long ago. He's in the building. You know, I'm going to talk about the conference. My man, Principal Mountain. In a little while, in a few minutes. Ramon Wells is in the building. Sonia King Green is in the building. Candace Norwood. Todd Muhammad is in the building out there in Long Beach, California. I was just there like a few weeks ago. Lily Lanier, Byrianne Collins is in the building. She's going to be on too in the fall, right? We're going to have some APs on here, and she's one of them. Hey, Julia Rich, Principal Rich is in the building. Tiffany Loving Life J is in the building. Dawn Riddick, Rita Ellis, Tatum Parker, Anthony J. Williams in the building. Yeah, Josh, I got the mirror all clean, man. You know, and it's interesting. I'll just say this now because since I see you, Josh, and then I'm gonna get started. You know, I got my regular joint, right? But I went out the other day and bought this big joint. But you see how I can't get this one clean, man. And then you see too much, right? So I can't use that big joint, man. I got to go back to this here, right? So Priscilla Russ is in the building. Look here, y'all. It's 11, man. It's 11:02 actually. Let me get started, man. Hit the share button, hit the retweet button. Let me say formally to everybody now, good morning. Greetings. Welcome to week 111. Can you believe it? I remember when I used to say week 5, right? Week 10, week 111. And I don't know about you. You know, I say that every week, but I think I know because I see them numbers. I see you here. Oh, Amin Ra's in the building. Y'all remember when Principal Amin Ra, the revolutionary principal, was here? He in the building. So now my fire just elevated because I see Amin Ra here. So let me let you know real quick because I got 3 guests today. I'm on fire. Woo! I'm feeling good, man. Oh, man, I'm feeling good. I know it's stuff happening in the world, but I don't let that douse my flames. I'm feeling good. In fact, I got to tell you one more time, I'm on fire. Woo! Whew. I tell y'all every week, I got to let that out, man. I got to release it. Like, it's not like game. It's not effect for the platform. I really got to release that. And I do it on Saturday morning live. Right? It's like all whatever was in me from the week, it's out now. Right? I picked Boston last night. They got rocked. That's out now. Right? So now let's get into it, man. You know, I got my quick motivational message. It's about the mirror. Look here, y'all. We're at the end of the year. Some of you are still you in Jersey, New York, all that. You ain't nowhere near the end yet. You still got some time, right? Because we go all the way to the end of June. But I got the mirror up. And I'm saying to you, you got a lot of things going on this summer. I know that. But one of the things, you know, I don't know which video it was. You got to go back to the YouTube channel, Virtual AP Leadership Academy, and scroll back. And the one that was dealing with the leadership blueprint, got to go back to that one. Because you got to think this thing through. You got to process it because you got to come back stronger than ever next year. So again, those 3 levels, your situation analysis. Where are you now? And being just honest with you about where you are in all the different categories of your leadership. Next, your goals. Where are you going? Next, your strategy. How are you going to get there? You can't just set the goal. You can't just dwell on the situation, but you got to have a plan. How you going to get there? So here's my recommendation to you. Spend almost every day on that leadership blueprint. Literally, almost every day. Just what is my current situation? Like, where am I now? What are my deficiencies? What are my faults? What are my shortcomings? What are my failures? What are my successes? What are my victories? What are my wins? But you want to just make an honest assessment in writing of your situation. Then what's my goal? Where am I going? Where am I going to be a year from now? No, forget a year. Where am I going to be a month from now? Where am I going to be a 2 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now? You gotta write it out though. And then what's your plan? How you going to get there, man? You got to have that plan, right? It's got to be well thought out, right? So that's just my reminder. You know, go to the video with 90 minutes where we're just talking about that leadership blueprint, right? Next, my School Leadership Institute. It's coming up, man, July 12 and 13 in Charlotte. This won't be me coming to some city near you. This is you coming to me, but we're basing it in Charlotte. So Charlotte, July 12 and 13, go to principalkafele.com, scroll down to my summer conference schedule. right? It's not all my schedule, just the public schedule. Scroll down, look for the School Leadership Institute. It's the virtual AP Leadership Academy on the road, but we call it School Leadership Institute. It's the 5th annual. Click that link and then register. And then I'll see you in Charlotte, July 12 and 13. We be live and in person. If you need to rock that mask, rock that mask. I'm not going to have mine on, so you put yours on, and we're going to get down for 2 days. We talking like, I don't know, like 20 hours maybe. 20 hours of leadership, maybe 16. I don't know. We'll see. If y'all could go more than 8, then we go 10 a day, right? So, and then while I'm down in the South, and my man, Principal Andre Benito Mountain is on here, I'll be in Atlanta on that week, on that Saturday morning. What is that? I think the 16th. I'll be there that Saturday. So that's on the website too. Go to principalkafele.com. I'll be the opening keynote at that conference. My man, Dr. Anthony Muhammad, will be a keynoter there. My milking sister, Erin Jones, will be a keynoter there. That's in Atlanta. That's on that Saturday of that week of the 12th and 13th. I guess that's the 16th, I think, right? So be there. So go on and register like today. Matter of fact, if you got a second device with you, hit that up right now. Like I'm on the computer. Here's the phone. You can hit it up right on the phone and get it out the way. And I'll see you the same week in Charlotte and Atlanta. Congrats to all the folks landing those positions, man. 7 days a week, I'm getting letters from people. Thank you, Mr. Principal Kafele. Thank you, Principal Kafele. Got the job. I'm now assistant principal. I'm now principal. I'm now director, now supervisor, whatever it is. They say that Saturday Academy, man, virtual AP Leadership Academy, the interview videos, man, it took me to another level. It prepared me. I say, praise God. That's all I say. Praise God. Now the work begins, right? So all those folks, good job. First timers, welcome to you. I should have said that first, but all the first timers here, welcome. Don't let this be your last. Keep on coming back, man. This is the place to be on Saturday mornings. I can't think of a better place to be quite frank with you. This is the place to be on Saturday morning. Lastly, I got my guest here, but before I get to him, it's my newest, the Equity and Social Justice Education 50. If you don't have it, my question is, what you waiting for, man? Critical questions for improving outcomes and opportunities for Black students. Get your hands on this. You can go to Amazon right now. You can go to principalkafele.com right now. Here's the book that really accompanies this platform, the Assistant Principal 50. If you don't have it, get your hands on it, right? And then those of you who are aspiring to become administrators, the Aspiring Principal 50. Now, of course, I got a stack more of books I've written, but we ain't going to spend my time doing that today. Go to Amazon and put my name in, and every book I've written will show up, right? But then I got guests today. They wrote this book, man. Fighting the Good Fight. Narratives of the African American Principalship. When I got my hands on this book from the editors, Isaac Carrier and Aaron Griffin, a few months ago. Oh, and by the way, I wrote the endorsement, right? So you know how I feel about this book. My name is on the cover, right? So I said, man, some of you will recall we brought on 4 of the authors about a couple months ago, maybe. But then I called Aaron. I said, the editor, Dr. Griffin, I said, man, I need all of them. And I want to devote every second Saturday of the month, except for August, because I'm going to be out of the country, so we're going to record that one. But every second Saturday of the month, I want 3 authors from this book so we can talk about perspectives on leading while Black, right? Because that's an important topic. So each of them bring their own perspectives, their own message. And I want to bring them up here now, because I've been excited all week about them being here. So let's get them on up here. And here they are in the building. They in Jersey City, New Jersey with me. I want to introduce to you Dr. Jamika Howard, Dr. Raphael Crawford, and Dr. Wilbert Andrews. Shout them, say hello, y'all.
Good morning.
Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Yeah, we got them in the building. You know, first thing I want to do, I want to share their bios with you all out there. Hit the share button, hit the retweet buttons. Let them know that we are here. And I want to share. I asked them to send me their short bios because we with all their accomplishments, we could spend the whole day just on the bio. So let me read Dr. Jamika Howard first. Dr. Jamika Howard lives in the South with her husband, 2 children, and her dog. That's important. She is currently, I learned that recently because my daughter has a dog, and the dog is important too. She is currently an elementary school principal in a large urban district. In her 19 years as educator, she has been an elementary school teacher, counselor, and assistant principal, and middle school assistant principal. Dr. Howard is passionate about social justice and equity in education and is devoted to providing every student with the access and opportunity they need to achieve the excellence they deserve. Her preferred areas of study are instructional leadership, school turnaround, education policy, and anti-racist pedagogy. She is also an avid reader of Afrofuturism. Let me say that again. Afrofuturism. Loves puzzles and podcasts and makes a pound cake that might be better than your granny's. She spent 10 years as an AP prior to becoming a principal and is excited to be a part of the conversation today. Man, there's a lot in that bio, man. I'm going to come to some of that, though. Dr. Raphael Crawford is an educational leadership practitioner recognized for his successes in urban school reform, transformative reorganization, and strategic leadership development. With more than 30 years of experience in school leadership and leading change, innovation, leadership and staff development, and human capital strategy, he has led schools through strategic improvement initiatives that resulted in increased student achievement and organizational outcomes. Through his work in change process and re-engineering systems, he has developed a strong reputation in transformational change, school restructuring, and staff development leadership. His success as a school leader and his role in the implementation of Tennessee's educator evaluation system and Common Core state standards was recognized by the state's governor. A former P-12 principal, staff development director, and school district leader, Dr. Crawford currently works as a consultant providing educational management strategy and faculty development solutions. Additionally, he continues to serve as a part-time assistant principal and mentor principal. And lastly, Dr. Wilbert Andrews is a 1988 graduate from Westbrook High School. 1988, that's a big year for me because that's the year I became a teacher. He is a BAAS graduate from Lamar University, 1995, and has his Master of Education from Prairie View A&M University, August 2005. Dr. Andrews acquired a doctorate of education degree from Texas Southern University Curriculum and Instruction in 2014. Dr. Andrews has served in many roles during his career. He served as a campus case manager for CIS Communities and Schools for 2 years, and his first teaching assignment was in the Port Arthur Independent School District at Thomas Edison Middle School, 7th and 8th grade math teacher for 3 years. Dr. Andrews acquired a teaching position in the Beaumont Independent School District at Ozen, hope I said that correctly, high school, secondary mathematics for 8 years, and was promoted to assistant principal at Westbrook High School, served 4 years. He received his first principal assignment at Smith Middle School in Beaumont Independent School District, 4 years as a turnaround principal. As a result of district restructuring, he was reassigned to a principal's role at Pathways Learning Center in the Beaumont Independent School District, 2 years. Dr. Andrews served as a district K-12 mathematics supervisor in the DeSoto Independent School District. And we had 2 folks from there not too long ago, Dr. Levels and Principal Hannibal. Dr. Andrews recently served as the principal of Forest Park Magnet Middle School and currently serves as principal partner of the Culturally Responsive Learning Network. That's a lot of accomplishment of the 3 folks on here. Good stuff, good stuff. Let's go, folks. Hey, folks out there, hit that retweet button, hit that share button. As the young people might say, it's about to get lit, right? So let's jump into it. You know, folks, as an educator, and I'm talking to the 3 of you now, as an educator, for me, as a teacher and a leader, I literally, and I'm unapologetic about this. I think people that know me know my work. They understand this. They know this of me. I embraced that I was a Black teacher, not that I was a teacher. I embraced that I was a Black teacher, that I was a Black principal, right? I embraced that. It wasn't that, oh, he's a black principal. No, I walk into the room, I'm black principal, right? So in fact, I wore it on the sleeve, and it in turn fueled my why. Want you to hear that again? It fueled my why. And my why, to give you just that in terms of the question I'm gonna ask you, my why was to inform, to inspire, to empower Black boys. Now, I happened to be in schools that were all Black. I had male and female population, but I also knew something about the experience of growing up Black male. So I said, I want to put myself in position that these boys, the probability increases that they are going to be successful depending on how they define success. So with that, I want to ask the three of you, there's a variety of reasons I'm sure that you all became school leaders, but what is or what was the why that made you make that decision, that fueled you, that drove you? I'm going to go with Dr. Howard first.
Well, thank you, sir. This question is a big deal for me. I talk about this a lot. One of my favorite things I say to my staff is that kids like me grow up to be people like me.
Mm.
And growing up in the West End of Birmingham, Alabama, I mean, when you talk about the way I came up and the language of today, my ACEs score is 9. And for someone who has had an incarcerated parent or dealt with mental illness and family drug abuse, domestic violence, etc., for me, I believe all those kids deserve all the great things, and it's my job to give it to them. So when I started as a teacher, I thought, I like this. I got my 30, okay, but there's a couple more kids I need to touch. And then I got my master's and became a counselor, became an AP, became a principal. And really, it has stayed those children, those beautiful little faces that walk into my building, and being able to connect with them and know that having my ACEs score is 9, not 10. That last one is I had somebody in my life who I knew was going to take care of me.
Yeah.
And that breeds resilience. And so when my children come in, the first thing they see is this smiling face saying, I love you. When they come in, they see these locks. They've got their little afros and their locks and their ponytails, and I wore my hair like that when I was a child. And so making sure that they know that there's somebody in this building that loves them.
Mm.
And as the principal, I can make sure that the rest of the people in that building come to teach like their kids go here too. So for me, my why is to make sure that I pull all my people up and that students know every single day of their life that there's someone who loves them and is rooting for them, is going to make sure that they get all the great things they deserve.
Someone who loves them and someone who's rooting for them. And a lot of times when I hear that word rooting for, I think about cheerleader. Somebody and I see you as that cheerleader. Not at the sporting event, but that cheerleader, just for the fact that you are walking through the doors of our school. I love it. I love it. The why. Let me go to you, Dr. Crawford. What's your why?
I think much like you.
Tell them why you got the mask on,
Okay.
too. They probably wonder.
I apologize, family. I am actually doing some dental work right in the midst, and I have an apparatus that causes great pain. And I speak with a lisp when I have it in. So I have this on, but if anybody's having difficulty, I will take it off or lift it up or do something. But like you, good brother, I think it was important to me, and even Sister Howard here, Dr. Howard, it was important that children see themselves in the leadership. One of the things that I learned very early in my career, and I was very fortunate to have a strong Black man who was my very first principal, but he was all company. He was all about what the district said needed to be done. And many times as a young, when you're young, young teacher, you think you're going to change the whole world. and you're going to go into the classroom and you're going to make everything, you're going to just resolve every issue. You're going to make it all really great. And so what happened was simply that I learned very quickly that he was pushing the district's program, which we should, as administrators, we should. But somewhere in there, the children's needs were actually being left. And the children who looked like me, they weren't being really served the way they needed to be. But I was a very novice teacher, and there wasn't a whole lot I could do at the time. And so I just decided, you know what, I'm going to be what I think my children need. A young man, this is not a quote from me. This is a man that I befriended many, many years ago named Michael Brown. And I remember him telling me, he was not an educator by profession, but definitely an educator. He said, children need real models. We often speak about role models, but children need real models. They need somebody they can touch. And that really was the precipitous. That was what made me want to pursue administrative career, because I thought, you know what, I'm going to be a real model for my children and for my school.
I love it. I love it. In a real model, you know, I feel like, you know, I'm 61 years old, right? And why did it take to be 61 to hear real model versus role model? Like in other words, why didn't I ever come up with that?
Right.
Right. It's like common sense. And I never thought about it. Yeah, I want to be a real model, not just a role model. Good stuff. Dr. Andrews, let me go to you. What do you think? What's your why here?
It's kind of hard to follow up with two brains. Like it's kind of hard to follow up. So I guess if you're the headliner, you better come with something, or you're gonna get left behind.
Yeah. The contract said you Monique. The contract said you headliner.
Well, I'm not gonna bring your daughters up into this, okay? Your daughters or your wife, okay? I'm gonna leave it there. But I'm gonna tell you this. I got one quote I was thinking about. I really was pondering the whole time while what Dr. Howard was talking, Dr. Crawford was talking, and I summed it up in one phrase that I posted over to school where all the kids could see it. And it says, all students can learn, and when given the proper the nurturing environment, given the time to get done, and the proper opportunity to get it done. And what my why, I'm thinking about, this was a Delta. I was raised by Deltas and educators. So their favorite word was, excuse my mouth, Negro, are you crazy? Instead of cursing me, they said, Negro, are you crazy? But I was thinking about my auntie, Delta, really Drake, and I was thinking about Coach John Clayton, and I was thinking about my grandmother. She was the first Black lady to go to Lamar University and enroll, and they chased her away. But my why, a nurturing environment, I thought about all of these people made a nurturing environment where I was not afraid to make a mistake, where I was encouraged to ask questions, where I was not beat down for asking the questions. So I was always curious about why. But they gave me the proper environment to feel safe enough to practice that or to ask those questions. The second thing in the answer is no time to do it. Oftentimes with our kids in school, and people don't understand this is human nature, period. You block a lot of brilliance that can come out of any human being when you rush them or make them feel inadequate, or you make them feel as if you're rushing them for an answer or time. You know, you can't get no true brilliance. What you do is causing shutdown. And this is what happens with our kids so often in school. And I felt that way. So I thought when I became an educator, I'm going to be the exact opposite of what I felt. And lastly, on my answer was given the proper opportunity. I never thought a dark, fat, black male from Beaumont, Texas, in the South, I'm in the belt of it, y'all, would get an opportunity to become an administrator in a school system. I cannot believe that Lord blessed me with an opportunity to lead adults and lead kids. So my why is because why not? Other kids that look like me who feel like that they could not do it or get the opportunity, I still believe if you work hard and you prepare yourself, the opportunity will come. You just have to shine when the time comes. And I hope I could be a shining light to all the kids I affected over 25 years. That's my why.
I love it. And I love when you said my why not, right? I'm with you on that all the way. Let's go hard on some of this, y'all. I want to start with Dr. Howard. I'm gonna kind of go in that sequence for I guess the whole conversation. Dr. Howard, I preach all over this country that it is not enough to do equity.
Right.
You must be equity. And then I say, coupled with that, equity can't be solely something that you do.
Mm-hmm.
Equity must be who you are. So with that, in reading your essay, I got excited because I'm gonna read quite a few passages from the book, just literally this morning. And here you said, I choose to be grateful that my lived experiences and education have prepared me to see equity as a way of being
Mm-hmm.
rather than as an action to be taken, which for me, you and I are saying the same thing.
Yeah.
So when I say that, when you say way of being rather than an action to be taken,
Mm-hmm.
what are you saying? And what does that look like
Right.
for our audience out here today?
Basically, what I'm saying is, right now, uh, we got a lot of things going on in the U.S., but equity over the last few years, it's been a wave. People are hiring diversity, equity consultants. We're talking about how do we make such and such equitable? How do we make such and such equitable? Um, Trying to figure out a way to articulate this the best way, but the way we live our lives in U.S. right now, it's a Eurocentric culture, right? So when you're white, you're the default. So if you plan things with that mindset, it's about planning it for that Eurocentric crowd. And then you got like, oh wait, we got black people, we got brown people. Let's get them in here on the end. And then you end up, with performative equity or pluralism or things that really are just a shallow wade into the experiences of our students. And so when I say equity as a way of being, I say we approach all situations with the mindset of what do our students need.
Mhm.
So we begin with our students because my name is Jimica. I have never found a keychain at a gas station that
Right,
has my name on it.
right.
I just haven't. And to many people, they're like, "That's goofy," but I'm like, "Is it though?" When you're 7 years old, 8 years old, and you're looking around and you're like, "Oh, that's my this name here, this name here." That is a symptom of being an add-on. And so when I look at my school, for example, with over 80% Black and Brown students, my norm is different. And in many of our schools, in urban schools, the norm is different. And so to approach what students need with equity as your mindset, to say, hey, I'm approaching this to attune to the needs of my students, not the average or etc. Because again, if we all went and bought shoes that were the average, the shoes would be way too big for me, and they would probably be too small for some of you. So when you shift that norm and you consider that you have students who have different lived experience, students who have different languages of origin, students who have different exceptionalities, and all these wonderful things that they come to us with, our mindset is how do we serve our students? How can I make myself appropriate for the students I have rather than trying to fit them into a mold that has not served them? I think one of my colleagues just said that a minute ago. You can't shove them in there. We've got to build it for them because that's what they need.
Yeah.
And I think there was a second part, and I got off on my.
Yeah. No, what I'm asking you is, so
Mhm.
when we talk about, and let me use your language, way of being
Mhm.
rather than action to be taken.
Yeah.
Given I'm always thinking about the audience and I'm always thinking about why I created this platform.
Right on, like a practical application.
Yeah. So what does that look like that I can transition from
Yeah.
just the action to personification?
Right on. So I work in a school that's a CSI school, so persistently low achieving schools, bottom 5% of the state. And so PLCs, the professional learning community. Teachers getting together, putting their heads together to determine what we're going to teach, how we're going to assess it, what do we do when what we're doing is not working, and how do we stretch it for students who need more. And so in those conversations, a lot of folks use these 4 PLC questions, right? And they say, oh, okay, I'm going to. Now, when you look at the people in that group, um, obviously I'm in when if I'm a teacher, there's not a lot of PLCs that look like the 4 of us, I'll say, right?
Right.
And so when you come and you're like, oh, okay, I've got people that may not look like or have not lived like my students. How do we start our unit planning? How do we start our lesson planning and consider the needs of our students, the interests of our students? So it looks like when you start and you're talking about what are we going to teach, we don't just say, well, I've taught this before, or I heard this somewhere, or I found this on Pinterest or Teacher Pay Teacher. We say, I have a group of students in my class who are living in a community of students who have been in a family of refugees from this area. Or I have a group of students who live right around the school. And you know what? They've noticed, they keep asking me about our park. Why isn't the park by our school as nice as the park on the other side of town? And giving students and talking with teachers and planning your instruction around the interests and needs of students. And how can we speak to their identity and their community? I had a group of first graders who did actually notice that very thing. And there's a park on one side of town that is got a wonderful splash park, and there's a park on the other side of town that sometimes you feel like is a mosquito family reunion. And so the first grade 6-year-olds, they noticed this. We showed them pictures, we exposed them, and they said, hey, I don't like that. They wrote letters to the Parks Department, and they told him so.
Hmm.
And he responded, and he said, those are some scathing reviews. Well, here are our equity plans for the future. And the students understand, what does the 6-year-old know? That's not fair. I don't have that. I want what he's got. You can take that understanding of fairness and leverage that for equity. And you can teach them to be forces for change and justice and liberation in their community. But in order to do that, you have to center what you're teaching in their interests and in their needs. And you also have to provide schema for students who may not have had all the experiences. They may not have been to that nice park, but you can show them pictures of it. And you can bring the things that they're interested in. You can listen to those conversations that they have, those cute little stories that they tell you when they say good morning. You catalog that, and then you bring it into what you're doing in the classroom. And as teachers, we put our heads together and we bring that. And instead of saying, what do we do when students don't learn? We say, how do we teach to make sure they learn? Because we have no other choice, right? Because at this point, it's life and death. Education is freedom and freedom is life. So we have got to make sure that we're bringing them a product that pulls them and engages them so that they can learn and be that next generation who is all about liberation and can say yes when the world tells them no.
And listening to all you said, which I love everything you said, I think the word that stood out for me more than anything else was the word centered. You were talking about centeredness and me thinking about that relationship between, say, principal and teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And that centeredness and staff understanding the community upon which they serve.
Yes.
Is my takeaway. It's so critical. To the gentleman, before I get to you, I got a part 2. I'm gonna have part 2s for you as well. But I got a part 2 for Dr. Howard before I move on to you all. And the part 2, Dr. Howard, equity and social justice. I argue that they must be inherent components of what we do in the classroom and what we do overall as leaders of our schools. So in with that being my contention, I looked at something you wrote here. And again, folks that are checking on them, we're coming out of this book. We're going to be using this book for 10 weeks. This is every second Saturday, except this August. After that, every second Saturday. And these are writers from this book fighting the good fight, narratives of the African-American principalship. Order it now while we're talking. This is a must-have, not just for the Black educator. The white educator needs to know Black perspective. The Latino educator, the Native American, I don't care who you are, right? It's Black folks have been reading non-Black material since we came out the womb. So it's important that folks who are not Black are reading Black literature, right? Getting perspectives in terms of understanding what it is to live in Black skin and to walk in the shoes of a Black person, in this case, of a Black principal. So I don't want someone to think, well, I'm not Black, so I don't need that. No, you might need it more than the Black folks need it, right? So get this book. It's an important book to read. So with that, you had said, Dr. Howard, because we got all doctors on here except me, right? It is impossible. I want y'all to hear this, man. I got this thing in yellow. It is impossible to separate my views about social justice and equity from my ability, skills, and desire to lead. I gotta read that again. It's such a potent sentence. It is impossible to separate my views about social justice and equity from my ability, skills, and desire to lead. My question to you on that is very simple, Dr. Howard. So why do you see social justice and equity and the overall classroom experience being essentially inseparable? Why so?
Well, trying to think of a succinct way to answer this. I see it as inseparable because I'm an educator in a public school. Schools are microcosms of the community that the schools are in. And so when you see systemic racism at play in the world, you see that mirrored in that school environment. You hear people who have gone to schools and got master's degrees, etc., to work with kids saying things like, that's too hard for them, or the low kids versus the high kids, or those kids, or these kids, etc. And you hear that in the building. You hear that from mouths that have melanin and those that don't. And so when you're working in that environment, that's again, US, we got systemic racism. And we have it right there in our schools too. And so to take that tone about anti-racism, racism is not something that you can be neutral to. It's something that must be dismantled and attacked, and in order for liberation to happen. And so if that's necessary in the community at large, it's necessary inside a school building. And the blessing is that as school leaders, we have a little more agency inside those buildings than we do in the community at large.
I love it. I love what you said. Hey, Dr. Crawford, let's jump into it. First thing I want to say is that piece you wrote is called White Tears and Black Fears: The Price Paid by African American Principals. I'm literally on the plane. I'm 40,000 feet altitude reading this thing last week at some point. And I said, man, I feel this. This thing is hitting me. It's touching my soul, right? And if my man is on here now, my brother, Dr. Vincent Stallings, if he was to read your essay, he would say exactly, right? Let me share this piece here. You said, although white peers were usually assigned to higher performing and better resourced suburban schools and praised for their innovation and hard work, it appeared that I and other African-American principals I knew landed in the lowest performing and highest poverty schools. Of course, they were the ones with limited resources, and we were given unrealistic timelines to improve student achievement or be labeled a failure as a principal and face career-ending consequences. Every African-American school leader I've known, from superintendents to assistant principals, has spent their entire career trying to prove their competence and worthiness for the leadership position. That's strong stuff. So my question to you, considering the purpose of this platform, leadership preparation and development, how do we prepare, Dr. Crawford, or train the Black future principal for the reality of this double standard rooted in race?
I think I'm going to go back to Sister Dr. Howard, something that she said about you have to be centered. And if I were telling or advising a future administrator, I would say that you have to be centered. You have to be totally, totally comfortable with who you are. Again, equity, whatever it is, it has to be who you are more than what you do. Because you will be tried. Here's the thing. If you want to be a successful principal, once you dive, you're either going to sink or you're going to swim. There is no coming back up. And so you have to know, we are, as you were reading.
Doc, repeat that, please. That whole sink or swim.
Yeah.
That again.
Once you dive off the cliff, there is no coming back. You're either going to swim or you're going to sink. You don't get the luxury of coming backwards out of the water. So you're there.
And if you don't know that, ask Mark Jackson that used to coach the Golden State Warriors. He'll tell you.
Absolutely. And as you were reading that passage, I can tell you without being able to see, every administrator in this meeting was nodding in agreement, because there are things we experience that we're not allowed to say. We all know that even when in cases where there's a Black African-American superintendent, they also answer to someone, and they will not place, or very likely, they're not very likely to place an African-American principal in a very affluent, suburban, white school. They just won't do it because those communities say, no, we don't want a Negro in our school. That is the reality. And so what we do is take our wins and make them all successes. If you're going to put me in the lowest performing school, then I'm going to make it the absolute most exemplified case of success that our district has ever seen. And that is why I say, and I've said it for years, if you see a Black principal, they work extra hard. They work double hard, because one, they're having to resolve lots and lots and lots of academic issues, but also very personal things. And so, here's another thing I will say, everybody wants to be a principal. Everybody thinks they can do the principal job. The principal role, the assistant principal role, is not for everybody. We all know that, especially the assistant principal, you are kind of the peacemaker. You're the person who works between the staff, the community, the students, and the executive principal, who has a completely different set of skills and mandates that they must follow. So you are that person. See, everybody wants to be a pit bull until the dog picture comes down the street. You don't get to run away. If you're there, you're there. And so you have to make it a success, because as Dr. Howard has said, it's about our children. It's about our children more than it's about our job. And so you have to deal with, and you have to speak to the powers that be for what is in the best interest of your kids. So again, we all know that we get the schools that where the kids look like us. If I had a choice, I would choose that kind of school any day over the suburbanized schools, because I've had them both. And I'll tell you, they don't want us in those schools. And they let you know that. I, many years ago, was assigned to a school in a suburban area of Nashville. And middle of the summer, as I was taking things out of my car, there were some white women there. And they said to me, "We don't want you here." Had never seen them a day in my life. They had never seen me. I was literally taking things out of my car to go into the building. And I politely said, "Well, I don't want to be here either, but I'm here and I'm going to do the best I can." And I politely walked around them. But it was the most hellacious year of my career. So what we have to do is, we as Black people, we have always been silenced. We talk about cancel culture. Cancel culture started in 1472 or whenever Columbus came here. That's when cancel culture started. It didn't just start. We've always been silenced. We've always been unable to speak our truth. We've always had to, because we have to things are not fair for us. There is a double standard, a triple standard, and we have to make do. And so we've always had to be quiet about those things. But we know that African American principals are given the worst assignments, the least amount of resources, and very unrealistic expectations. In Tennessee, you have, well, they used to have 3 years to turn a school around. And I can connect definitely with Dr. Andrews because they used to call me a turnaround principal too. Basically, that means you're going to have hypertension, diabetes, and all kinds of other stuff because you have all of these things that are thrown at you. And they say, you better turn it around by this date or you're out of here. And so, you know, they take the principals who don't look like us, they put them in the better performing schools, and they praise them for what a great job they're doing. And all the little things that are accomplishments at our schools, they are really huge things. They may not be what the district wants, but they are huge successes because our kids are overcoming all kinds of stuff. But we are always second guessed. And so I just think that I don't even know if I answered your question. I just needed to say that because it is true.
Well, let me say this to you regarding the question part. This is me again, considering who's in this audience, amongst the folks who are seasoned and so forth. There's a rookie watching right now. There's an assistant principal watching right now. There's aspiring administrator watching right now. They watched the Joe Clark movie Lean on Me and they got excited, and now they want to come in and do the same thing that they saw in the Hollywood depiction, right? But now here comes the real world and these double standards that we're talking about, and I'm not prepared for that. What could you say, Dr. Crawford, to that person? That's not even on their radar. What's on their radar is I want this job. They ain't thinking about that yet.
Right.
What do you say to that person to help them to make a much more informed transition into leadership when we know that these realities exist?
Okay. I would say, first of all, there's a little bit of Joe Clark in every successful Black administrator.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have a little bit of Joe Clark, a little bit of Marva Collins in every Black principal. The reality is much of what was depicted in Lean on Me, which actually is one of my favorite movies, that is a reality in many situations. I think that I would tell an aspiring administrator to go in knowing you're going to be confronted with many of those things, but you have to proceed with caution. We don't have the luxury of just having a one-size-fits-all for every situation because every kid comes with a different set of issues and problems. Every teacher, every staff member comes with a different set of problems and circumstances, and you have to be the person to deal with all of that. You know, when you asked us why we were a principal, what I would say to ask an aspiring administrator is, why do you want to do it? Why do you want to do it? Because you have to know it comes with a price, a personal price, because you will be conflicted. Because if you are I wear dashikis to work, or I wear a bow tie, and it just depends on my mood that day. But I am unequivocally and unapologetically Black and African centered. And if you can't take me that way, then I'm not the leader for your school, because that's how I'm going to show up. So I would ask people just to know these are the things you're going to be confronted with. Certain things you're going to have to jump out there, whether or not you're comfortable or not. But it all comes with a price you pay with your health, your mental well-being, family relationships. There are days when everybody's going to be upset with you, and you're trying to make it right. And so you're having to be somewhat conflicted, but you have to be true to yourself. So as an aspiring administrator, you have to understand that it's not about the salary, it's not about the title, it's not about whatever influence you think you're going to have. It's not about the new car you think you're going to be able to afford now. It's going to have to be about truly making things better for your school and for your school community. And if that is not the heart of what you want to do, then this is not the role for you. You will be eaten alive. You will. You will.
I love it, Dr. Crawford. You know, I got one more for you, and then I'll get to Dr. Andrews. But I kept this name, this brother, on the screen here, where it says Vincent Stallings. That's Dr. Vincent Stallings. He was my assistant principal at one of the schools I led. And when you talked about attire in terms of what you're wearing right now, that's how he and I showed up to school every day. We wore robes in some cases, right? And that was he and I just being our authentic selves. The beauty of it was it wore off on many of the staff and students because we were modeling something, right? But that's a whole other conversation. Dr. Crawford, there's another passage in here that I wanted to share that you wrote. And it says, there were many times during my career as a school principal when I had to look in the mirror. I want y'all to hear this. When I had to look in the mirror and say, Black man, don't let them break you. Considering the negative public image portrayals of Black men, I've had to be keenly aware of my skin tone, physical appearance, voice inflection, hear that, voice inflection, and tone, even facial gestures or lack thereof when dealing with white supervisors, subordinates, and even parents. I feel compelled to repeat one of these lines. I have to be keenly aware of my skin tone, physical appearance, but this is the one, voice inflection and tone. That's the one that really resonates with me. So, with that, Dr. Crawford, as a Black teacher and leader, my own authenticity mattered to me exponentially. As a Black speaker, which is what I do for a living, and consultant, my authenticity matters to me. I had a young lady said to me the other day, she said, and this was just her perception, I guess, but she said, you militant. And I said, no, I'm not militant. I'm just conscious of who and what I am. Right. And that's my authenticity. And that's inclusive of my name, which I gave myself, Baruti Kafele. Baruti meaning teacher, Kafele meaning worth dying for, which I spun it to say the struggle for the liberation of our children is worth me losing my life over, right? And that comes from Malawi. The first name comes from Botswana. So with that, I got this question. I got to read it because it's kind of complicated. Is it possible that a Black principal can maintain his or her own authenticity as a Black man or woman in leadership, or will the double consciousness that Du Bois wrote about in 1903 be an ongoing impediment to his or her intentional authenticity?
I believe it is possible to maintain one's, because it's who you are. I believe it's possible to maintain it. It is difficult to maintain it. And it certainly will be met with challenge because you, as an administrator, you're expected to fit the molds. It's a little club. You have to fit in with us, and you're Black, and so you should be happy that we're even giving you a seat at the table. And it's going to be at the far end of the table, but here. And so I think it's very possible. But here's the thing, Doc. It is necessary. It is necessary that I maintain who I am, because if I am untrue to who I am, I can never be true to my children.
Yeah, how about that?
And so it is definitely going to be met with challenge. I'm a big Black man. I usually have a big voice. And so I have to make sure that I don't, even when I'm upset about something, I have to come across more passively. I have to be more diplomatic. when I really want to shake somebody and say, you know, are you crazy? I have to be very diplomatic with them because, you know, then, oh, this angry black man and he just, no, I just asked you to, you know, correct whatever this was. And so we know that. And those are our lived experiences. And it's not just the men, it's Dr. Howard has experienced it. It's the black females. You know, oh, she's just mean and hateful and, you know, just angry. We're always angry. We have a right to be angry, by the way, but we're always angry. Whatever we do, whatever we say, is met with challenge. And what happens is, and I speak it, I've always said it, you know, because I've lived that experience. All it takes is one white woman in your school to go to central office crying about something she was wrong about, but the problem becomes what you did or said, not that she was wrong. All it takes is one, and you almost never can overcome that. And so it is, yes, sir, it is definitely possible to maintain that. It is important, and I'll say it again, it's important that I am true to myself, because if I'm not true to me, I'm not going to be true to my students or to the staff at the school. And that's what they see.
Yeah. That's powerful stuff. I'm looking at all these comments, and in one of them, let me just, you know, I feel like I have to do this. Stefan Greenlee says, "This is my first year as head principal. Have a book recommendation?" Yeah, I do, Stefan. Here it is, Fighting the Good Fight. These are 3 of the authors of this book, Narratives of the African American Principalship. So these are 3 of the authors. You can order it right now. If you're watching us on one device, get the other device, go to Amazon and order the book. And there are about 30 essays, 35, whatever it is, in this book on the African American Principalship. So get yourself a copy now, edited by Dr. Isaac Carrier and Dr. Aaron Griffin, right? And then you got just a multiplicity of perspectives in this book. Finally, Dr. Andrews. And again, anybody want to chime in on any responses from anybody? You guys just, you know, you handle that. Just jump on in there at any time. Dr. Andrews, the title of your essay is Saving the World as a Principal. And that really resonated with me because I felt like I was that guy that was trying to save the world through this particular school, if that makes sense. And obviously it does to you because you worded it that way. And to be quite frank with you, it is still my mindset in terms of this platform and in terms of the work I do every day on these airplanes, right? So I still have that. It didn't leave me when I transitioned into this work full time. So with that, I want to ask you the question: when you say saving the world as a principal, what exactly are you saying? And again, I'm considering the people who are watching live or who will watch it later. What are you saying to them when you say saving the world through the principle?
I like to talk in quotes and narratives. If y'all have a little patience with me, I like to set it up.
Yeah.
Okay. What's that saying? And I think Dr. Howard said it earlier. Everybody wants to be the boss until it's what? Time to be the boss. See, I came with that perspective because when I was an assistant principal and when I was a math department lead, and I would listen to some of the decisions that were made by my school leadership, right? And what's the first thing that we'd say in that little office, in that little lounge that we can get some coffee around the cooler top? Oh, why would you do that? Oh, why would he do this? Oh, he must don't know. He doesn't understand what's going on. He don't know what he's doing. So I've always said, when I get to be the principal, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to set this up, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and it's going to be wonderful. And that's why I have to pause, because what I'm doing right now is showing you all, I guess I'm lashing myself from my past experiences about what I would do. See, the one I learned best practices instructionally. I've learned how to handle discipline from the best practices of how to handle discipline. I've learned the ins and outs of instruction and remediation. I've learned the in and outs of how to deal with a difficult teacher. But nobody taught me how to deal with the politics of education. Right. Nobody. If and I hope I'm not going off a little bit, but this is the truth. Be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it. And the other saying is, if you ever play dominoes, all money, not good money. More difficult schools need to be taken on by veteran principals, I'd say, such as myself. I think I got my first principalship a little early, before I experienced all of the things I needed to experience to perform optimally. Now, the first principalship I received, we turned the school around in a year. Second year scores went higher. Third year, guess what it did? Because I did not understand the ongoing politics within the school district and within the community, and all the backroom talk. So the big word, and I'm a hitch to what Doc said a minute ago. He said, Dr. Crawford, you asked him, was it possible to be yourself and still be successful? Let me go ahead and tie into that. I like to stitch to a little bit. Look, stitch a little bit. Mm-hmm. It is, but the capital word is called support. If you have no support above you, nothing you do will be sustainable. Okay? I put systems in place. Not just myself. Let me get out of eye. Dr. Carol Thomas heard me say that, man, I'd get a lashing for 2 hours. We put an instructional program in place to help the kids be successful at that school. However, it was not sustainable. You can only do so much as the principal coming in trying to save the world. If you don't have support above, it cannot be sustainable, period. So yes, it is possible to put your program in place. Yes, it is possible through best practices, and you can strong arm it, but that's not sustainable, because after a while, you're going to get tired. You need to have support to help you carry your program on when you can't fight for your program anymore. So that's what I mean by saving the world. I just knew I can do it. Support you got to have for it to be sustainable.
I want to stay with you on that, Doc, before I go to a follow-up. The folks that are on this platform on a regular basis know that I will slip into a discussion on people skills in a minute, right? Because that's just my thing in knowing how to deal with and manage different personalities. And I'm talking about now superiors, as this is who you were talking about. I want you, from your vantage point, when that principal is in that situation where I'm stuck because of superiors and blockage to what I'm trying to do. Talk to us from your vantage point. You may not sound like me because we're not the same person, but talk to us about, from your vantage point, where do people skills kick in terms of knowing how to or understanding how to deal with different people differently? And let me preface that real quick, because in my situation, I had that. I had people who were blocking things I wanted to do, but I had to figure out how to deal with different personalities. And as I figured out how to deal with different personalities, I was able to attain things that, had I just kind of treated them generically, I would have never gotten. So I'm just using that as a backdrop. Jump on in here. Talk to us about where that factors in.
Well, I have a comparison. I like to compare and contrast. Okay, and this should answer it for a lot of people. If not, I'll go deeper. Okay. I call it the battle of conflict versus confrontation. If you look at the definition of conflict, it's in the dictionary. It's only a difference of opinion, which we say what makes a strong organization is when people have different opinions. That makes your pool of information when you're trying to make a decision even better and stronger. So in other words, I don't put a yes man in my cabinet. Okay, I use a yes man when I'm getting my shoes polished. Okay, I don't need a yes man when we got to make a decision concerning these children's future.
Yes, sir.
Conflict is not bad in your organization. Confrontation is what's bad. So the reason why I say confrontation principle is because when you're dealing with the uppers, guess what? Whatever they put in writing, I'm going to carry it out. What's in writing is real and it's happening. If it's not in writing, it didn't happen. Okay? So when you put something in black and white, it's law. Okay? It's not my school district. It's not my school totally. I'm just in charge of exercise, putting into practice or executing the policies and procedures that you want in place. Mm-hmm. Okay? My job as the principal is to try to establish my positive school culture and climate and expectations and work ethic on the campus. It's not my job to make policy. It's not my job. It's my job to carry the policy out and the procedures out. So I'm trying to separate it. I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm not trying to, I don't really think it's a battle. You do have to have people skills. However, how far do you go without compromising yourself? And I think that's what Dr. Crawford was talking about. Don't compromise yourself.
Right.
Okay. You have to look at yourself in the mirror. I'm not, in other words, excuse me, I'm not no bootlicker. And I know that I'm going to do what I think is right. Okay. Ethically, morally, I'm going to try to do what's right. Okay. And it may conflict with other people. And I guess that's why in my career, I've had such a rough go of it. And I will not trade it for one moment because I have not compromised myself.
Yeah.
Okay, for these kids, because anything go down, those kids are going to look at me that I taught over all the years, and they're going to say, "Well, Dr. Andrews, you told me to act like this and carry yourself accordingly. Why did you do this?" Right. So we're living models of who we're standing in front of every day. You have to be able to look at yourself in the mirror every day. So I think it's conflict versus confrontation. That's where the people skills kick in. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And we're going to have conflict. I'm not going to agree with you on everything, but we can talk through it. And that's where the people skills come in. We can talk through it and discuss it.
Yes.
And we may be able to agree to disagree on different things. That's fine. You know, but it will not be no confrontation. Right. At least not on camera.
I love it. I appreciate that too. I love it. I love it. You know, I'm staying with you, Dr. Andrews. I recall vividly, and this is something that really never left me, my first day as an assistant principal, very first day, 1998. A principal that I knew reached out to me, not my principal, but a principal that I knew in the same district. And he said to me, he said, "Kafele, you're never going to be highly effective, regardless of your skill set, until you understand the politics of education." And when he said that, it meant absolutely nothing to me because it was the first day on the job. I was glad I finally got the job, and I wasn't thinking at that level yet. I wasn't in it long enough for that to be a consideration. But now it's like, I'm here. Let me figure out what this is. But once I got in there, and particularly once I became a principal, which was the following year, then I understood what he was trying to tell me, the politics of education. So with that, you wrote something that I want to read before I go to my question. You said educational entities that prepare educational administrators and educational administrative mentors should add additional lessons to their preparation manuals. Their educational administrative manual should include a chapter that pertains to operating in high-stressed political climates. The educational system is not designed to reward the faithful, but to punish the ill-prepared. When I mention the ill-prepared, I'm alluding to inexperienced educational administrators that have to learn the ropes of political climates. That was me. Upon reflection, I wish that I had been better prepared to deal with the politics of the culture. Experience is the best teacher. So I say with much respect and reflection that only now that I have gained the experience to guide the processes, might I be able to change the world as a principal. And when I read that on the plane, I said, whew, just like that. Because it's such a powerful statement. So my question, and again, considering who's in this audience, since grad school does not prepare leaders for the politics of education, and many Black leaders are therefore ill-prepared for the politics of education, particularly around issues of race. How, and I put this word in capital letters, how do we adequately prepare them? And who does this preparing this so essential?
Boy, I'm on fire now. Can I do what you did earlier? Woo! Woo!
Yeah.
I'm on fire. I want to jump in on the other Doc's question.
Go ahead, jump in that flame,
But
man.
my mother always says, she says, you fall for something, you'll fall for anything. That's how I started off. You have to look at yourself in the mirror in the morning. You have to tell the truth.
Yeah.
Looking at that conflict or picking sides, right? Picking sides. You have to look at yourself in the morning. You have to know yourself. Yeah. You have to be prepared to resign that job at any time at the cost of your soul at the end of the day. You cannot operate in fear. If you operate in fear, it's kind of like what Dr. Crawford said, it will eat you alive. Because if either you stand to the left and you're wrong, or you stand to the right and you're right. If you standing against the other side or the powers that be, you're gonna be wrong anyway. But oftentimes when you stand away from the powers that be, you're gonna be on the outs anyway. How long can you sustain that job? How long can you look at yourself in the mirror knowing, well, man, I done this and I know that was wrong. I shouldn't have done this. I should have done that. It's not sustainable. I keep using that word. It is not sustainable for you to be faking. I understand we all got to have a paycheck. I understand. We got to play the game. Me, myself, I'm at the stage in my career on the tail end where I still have to watch what I say and be mindful of what I say, but I'm going to be real with you. I have no fear. I know I have one skill set, and I know that skill set, I can put on my tools and I can go back to teaching. I can put on my tools and I can go back to being an assistant principal. If you're skilled, I'm willing to pay the price. As a matter of fact, I have been paying the price. It goes back to what Dr. Crawford said. You can't operate in fear. You cannot be afraid. I didn't have a lot of the support at all the places I've gone. But guess what? If you look up the scores at the end of the day with the state, which is factual, you can't change numbers. It'll show I was successful. So some people who made decisions regarding me had to answer questions themselves. Well, what's the problem? These were the numbers, but I understand now the politics. So going back to your question, you have to be comfortable with yourself and you have to be ready at any time notice to say, I got a plan B. I can go do this. Thanks for the opportunity. I'll tenure my resignation at this time. I know that I have enough trust in the Lord and everything and a good common set and a skill set where I'll be okay, I'll be taken care of. But a lot of young administrators don't understand that at any time when you say yes to that job, you have to be ready by next week. You may do or say something where the board may want to reconsider. You gone, period. You hadn't even had a chance to get started. You gone. You got to have a plan B. And who was it that said, once you dive off that cliff, was that Dr. Crawford? You can't dive back. There's no rewind. I took my first principal job at the worst school in the area, period. I knew it was the worst school but I was so cocky and confident, I knew I could turn that around. Shit, me, Dr. Andrew, oh yeah, I'm gonna turn it around. Oh yeah. Guess what? They had bets on me. I would fail in 1 year. Oh, y'all off the school improvement list? Oh, goodness gracious. Y'all must be cheating. Y'all know where I'm going with this.
Oh yeah.
You know where I'm going with this.
I've heard that before. Going
back to it, I've even kicked supervisors off my campus. I said, don't you even pull your car in my parking lot. Don't know. Oh, I'm gonna escort you out myself. Told my team members we were cheating. Okay. But getting back on the subject matter, anytime you make a decision regarding a position of leadership, you're putting yourself at peril, because what do you do whenever anybody go for a war? Who do you go for first? The head? That's the president. When you're the campus principal, you're the head. Be ready to get somebody gonna take shots at you, period. I don't care what you say. And if you're not ready to get shots taken at you, don't take the job.
Hey, Dr.
Do not take the job.
Don't take it. Dr. Andrews, I want to stay with you before I go to Dr. Howard. I'm thinking about, and I'm playing devil's advocate here. I'm thinking about the various different. People are wired differently. And I'm thinking about the one that's either on here with us live this morning or we'll see the video at some point, and they're not wired like you, right? They're not wired like Dr. Crawford. They're not wired like Dr. Howard. They're not wired like me, right? So therefore, I don't bring that level of courage that you just explained, that you just eloquently articulated. I don't bring that. I don't have that, at least not yet. I want you to talk to that person. How do I maintain this when I don't bring that level of courage, audacity, temerity to the work that I do, to my leadership or my burgeoning leadership? You know, I may not even be there yet, but I'm aspiring to become.
The first thing that you need to do, and it's another word, y'all know I like to talk in parable. It's called what do you call it? It's called being competent in what you do. You have to know. If you ask me right now, Dr. Andrews, what's your instructional framework? How do you teach kids? What's your routine? When do you have IPCs? When do you have PLCs? When do the teachers do what you ask them to do? Because a lot of young administrators have trouble with people doing what they want them to do. How do you hold people accountable without teeing people off? Well, my old boss told me if you don't piss somebody off every day, you're not doing your job. You're going to piss somebody off. Okay? Period. You're not going to make people like you. So I would tell that person, you're not going to work to make people like you. You're going to work to implement a job. Period. And you got to go in there fearless. You cannot be afraid of repercussion. You just got to be ready to take them lumps. And if y'all can see, I've been beaten up. And guess what? I'm ready to take some more. I'm like Rocky. It hit me some more. Cut my eye. I'm going back into the fight. But I would tell them, experience is the best teacher. Do not be in a rush to want to be the head in charge, because oftentimes when you're the head in charge, the brightest star burn out very quickly if you're not prepared or have support. Okay? Anytime you make a decision to take a principal job or a job of leadership in any institution, be prepared to, if you're not successful or your label is not successful, be prepared to be shunned your rest of your entire career. That's why it's not real good for you to receive a principalship so early in your career. You got a long career to go. Okay? You got a long career to go, and you are not going to be sustainable in that long career unless you learn all of the lessons that they have to learn before you dive into that pool. Okay, that's what I would tell them.
I love what you said, and you know, I'm just going to throw this last piece at you. I think about often, probably every day before I go to Dr. Howard, I think about where a lot of my courage came from in terms of me being a Black man, as a Black male principal, teacher, but just overall man. I stumbled upon at the age of 23, that's where it started anyway, African-American history, African diaspora history, African continental African history. And with me going, just immersing myself in a story, so to speak, that I had never been exposed to up until that point, it made me feel like I was unstoppable, that nothing could stop me, nothing could obstruct me. Whatever stood in my way, I'm going to either go above it, around it, underneath it, or through it. But something about this is my African American library, and something about just knowing our story informed me of who was in my mirror, and now nothing could conquer me. So I guess I'm preaching, and I'm saying to somebody out there, if you're going to take on this leadership position, if you're going to take on that classroom teacher position, and you know you got Black students that are in that school, you can't do, and I'm gonna stand on this, you can't do this work optimally, effectively, if you're not rooted and grounded in your story, because there's no basis for this work, because you have no foundation rooted in our people to stand upon. So that is just absolutely essential. So bringing that knowledge base with me, I ain't afraid of nothing or anybody, because I'm a descendant of greatness. And I would say to any principal, and this is something I preach on the road as well, particularly when I'm talking to Black principals, you got to know who you are. I can't, and I'll say, hey, Dr. Andrews and Crawford and Howard, forgive me. I'm on the soapbox. I'm getting ready to get off of it. You got to read The Miseducation of the Negro.
Yeah.
Right? You got to read Carter G. Woodson. And he said it best when he said, when you control a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his actions. You do not have to tell him not to stand over there or over yonder. He will find his proper place and he will stay in it. You do not need to send him to the back door because he'll go without being told. In fact, if there is no back door, he will cut one for his special benefit. His education makes it necessary. So I'm saying, if the school system is not going to teach you at graduate school, at undergrad, whatever it is, you got to take it upon yourself and educate yourself, because you are a part of a continuum. You're not just operating in isolation. You are a part of a continuum of greatness, and now it's your turn to carry the torch. I'm finished preaching, y'all. Anybody got anything you want to add to that, though?
I would like to just throw something in real quickly. I saw a comment pop up by Dr. Donna Ford here. And just let me say, especially to those who are aspiring administrators, you have to play politics. And we've all established one thing. If you listen to Dr. Howard, to Dr. Andrews, myself, and any Black principal, that, we've all been beaten up. That's part of the job. And so one of the things that you have to know is you have to play politics and you have to navigate the politricks. They use the politricks to come after you and to make it difficult or more difficult for you. And so you have to be able to navigate through that. And so I used to say, I don't play politics. Yes, you do. Education is politics. And so, you have to decide, am I being authentic to myself and to my mission, to the things I want from my school, or will I lose it because I won't play the game the way they want? And so you have to be able to navigate through all of that. So their politics and their politricks. And then the other thing I'd say, I heard from Dr. Andrews, I took from what he said, don't base your lifestyle on the role of a principal. Black principals don't last very long, especially those who are conscious, those who are committed to the students they serve. They don't last long. They don't last long. They're pushed out, or they just throw their hands up and leave after a while. And so I think at least for me, a lot of the younger aspiring principals that I know have run across, they think the lifestyle is going to be wonderful. I'm probably finally going to make six figures. I'm finally going to be able to buy a house. Don't base your career or this position. Don't do it. Don't put your lifestyle on the role of a principal. It's just not worth it.
Hey, I love it. Dr. Howard, let's talk here. I'm thinking about a Black principal in a school with gross racial disproportionality relative to student achievement, gifted and talented education identification and placement, student discipline, special needs placements, overall low expectations of Black students, and a staff that is not representative of the student body, where Black teachers are minimal, if not non-existent. Now, with that said, let me share this quick line of something you wrote. And again, for the folks tuning in late, I'm right in here, Fighting the Good Fight, right, by these three authors and several others. You said here, students develop their self-efficacy via their relationships with their teacher and classmates. Students look to their teacher to determine who is smart and who is not. Now, there's a broader context, but that line stood out for me because I'm thinking about that youngster who most youngsters who the bulk of their time, they're spending more time in class with the teacher than they may be at home with the parent for whatever the reason, right? So I've got all these hours, and now here's this person, and this person holds this power in terms of how I see myself in this mirror.
Mm-hmm.
So with that said, talk to us about the dynamics of the coaching relationship
Yeah.
between this principal, this black principal, and white teachers who may lack intimate familiarity with the
Mm-hmm.
reality of being black in
Yeah.
America.
Yeah. Well, that's a big one. And one of the things that I say to my staff often, I said it a lot more early on. I don't have to say it as much now. But that whole concept of, because again, we talked about waves, DEI is a wave. Uh, and that whole, I'm not even going to speak her name, but that whole cultural poverty nonsense uh,
Yeah.
was a wave as well. And there's this relationships. You can't teach them unless they know you care, which is true. However, it is there's a difference between sympathy and empathy, right? When you sympathize with somebody, it's oh poor baby, and in empathy and in empathy, with sympathy, you're walking and you're watching and you're going, oh, to me, that's the difference between an advocate and an ally, right? An advocate wants to stand between you and the struggle. An ally walks through the fire with you.
Mm.
And so I tell my teachers, it's possible to love kids to death. Okay. So, you say, hey, this baby is hungry or this baby needs this. That all may be true. This child also must have access to grade level instruction. And they must also have a system of tiered supports to accelerate them.
Mhm.
So, love them. Absolutely, I love them. I love them like they came from me. And the ones that live with me, I love them and I push them. Every child needs to be challenged. And and that's one of the things that, working in that turnaround environment, you get teachers with this heart and they're like, oh, I love him. Well, he came in, he was sleepy. So I just let him sleep.
Mm.
Are the streets gonna let him sleep, honey?
Right.
When he leaves you and he can't read, are the streets gonna let him sleep? They're not. So right now, while you got your hands on him, you gotta teach him to read. You can't leave him outside the circle because he's sleepy or hungry. You know what? When a kid comes to me and tells me they're sleepy, I say, me too, baby. And after you finish doing that work during your playtime, come on down here. You can lay down. They're not as sleepy anymore because they know the game. Kids politic too. And so it is, that's sympathy. That's a step on the way to empathy. That's a step on the way to realizing the need for equity. But at the same time, I'm not looking for advocates. I'm looking for allies. Don't stand between them in the struggle. Walk beside them. We can get real old and say, you don't give them fish, you teach them to fish. It's our responsibility. We hold those keys, open that door, and walk through it with them. Because if you keep standing there blocking everything, you're blocking them from rigorous, engaging, standards-based learning experiences that are anti-racist. You're shielding them from this world. The school is a microcosm of the larger community. How better to prepare them for the larger community than to know them and leverage their strength to grow them into things that they don't even into people who they didn't even know they could be. Because when I think about students who I hear from, I'm not really on Facebook, but last summer I was looking for something and I got on there and I had a message. And it was from a young man, and he said, "Do you remember me?" And I'm like, teachers, of course, I remember every little sweet face that crossed my threshold. And he talked about being in my class and how prior to being in my class that he felt like folks had given up on him because he was throwing tantrums and doing all these other things. I was that teacher who they'd bring me their kids' permanent records because back then they were in a box, they weren't on the computer. They'd bring me the permanent records. I'd say, thank you. And I'd shove that box behind my desk. At the end of the year, I'd dust it off and I'd give it back to them because every student has a new opportunity every day to be successful. And this baby, he said, I remember you teaching me this. And he said, it was like you didn't even know my past. I know the past that you give me because, when you walk through my door, you are as precious to me as these two little people that live in my house. And so, yes, I'm gonna push you. You're going to learn. You have no other choice. I'm going to extend the invitation. Absolutely. And I would prefer you to accept it willingly, but you have no other choice. but to learn from me, because the streets aren't going to wait for you to get it. I've got to equip you when you leave. And then when he went on and told me that he was in a master's program, and he and talked about how the work that we did together was life-changing for him, that just brought tears to my eyes, because we are not, folks say things, oh, she's just a teacher. Just don't belong anywhere near educator. And I tell the folks in my building, everybody in this building is an educator. And it's our job to make sure that we prepare our students. And yes, sympathy is a stop on the way to empathy, but I'm gonna need you to pass that stop real fast, like the gas is $5.99, and keep it moving, because we need to get to that empathy and ensure that we equip our students. Because if we're just loving them, we're loving them to death. We gotta love them and teach them and treat them like our most precious babies, because they are that.
Man, that was everything you said, and I'm looking at I'm multitasking, listening and looking at what people are saying. But I want to stay with you, Doc. That Black principal again is in that diverse school, racially diverse school, and that principal is a minority in that school. But there are Black children in that school that need everybody in there, but in this case need that leader.
Yeah.
But you got some staff in there that just don't know the reality of existing in Black skin.
Yeah.
So you use this word ally, right?
Yeah.
And versus advocate. And I want to ask you, because again, I'm thinking about somebody that's out there that's struggling with this. How do you, in your leadership capacity, literally create this ally that may not be your ally, but is in fact in the classroom with your babies?
Yes.
What's that look like?
Say that question again, because I had a thought in the middle, and then my mind went to something else.
You got that teacher that is not necessarily your ally. That teacher's not, matter of fact, let me add this to it. That teacher's not even on your team. That teacher does not share your vision.
Right.
That teacher doesn't have your expectations nor standards, but your babies report to that teacher every day.
Yes. Yes.
How do you shape if you're married, if the teacher's married to the building, you get rid of this teacher? How do you create an ally?
Yes. I create allies through coaching, through support, and through leveraging their strengths. Now, their strengths may not be the things I want them to have, but there's something there that I can leverage. And there's been situations where it was just like, I hear you. Now what I need you to do is take that baby space and put the baby that lives at your house's space there. Well, my child would never. Any child might do anything when their parents aren't around. So what would you want for yours is one of the things that I've used. Some of them don't have children. And some of them came specifically to an environment like my school because they felt sympathetic and they feel like these poor children need them and that they're there to save them. And the conversation around that is that sympathy, empathy conversation and that idea of protecting them. But also, I am a strong believer in policies. And so, for example, in my district, we use the Danielson framework for evaluation. We also have a code of ethics. And so when I review situations with teachers, I come from an evidence-based place, right? So if I have a teacher who says, well, I'm just doing this and I'm just doing this and I'm loving them so much, I say, okay, well, let's look at your data and see how much your love is moving them. And and so, when I look at the behavioral data and the academic data and the social emotional data, and when I talk to the students, because student perception data, students' voices, that's important qualitative data, right? I can present this data to this individual and I can say, hey, so I know you have this strong belief and this mindset and this thing that you feel you're doing. But when I look, When I look at your MAP scores, you got students in your class who are getting less smart than they were when they arrived. When I look at the behavior data and you say that student that you in the grocery store buying cereal bars for every weekend and feeding and letting sleep, there are an innumerable amount of PBIS calls for one of my administrators to come to that classroom to address behavior. And when I asked that student about being here, he says, I hate blank grade level. That speaks. I'm on some boards in town, and there's one board that has they're trying that DEI work right now, and there's a lot of students on the it's a music board, and they're wondering, they're like, how can I get more students? And folks are talking about scholarships, folks are talking about all these different things. And the question I bring to the table is, did you ask why they're not here? I read an article, there was a study about this school that had kids that had bad attendance. And so somebody told somebody that kids don't come to school because they don't have clean clothes, so they bought a bunch of washers and dryers. Well, guess what? They still didn't come to school, and they had all these nice new GE appliances. Ask them, how can I support you? What do you need? Why aren't you coming to school? Well, it could be this, it could be that, it could be this. But if we, in our sympathy and our bias and misconceptions about poverty or race or linguistic diversity, we are making choices to give people things that they don't need. Or the kids have realized that this person is somebody they can play by using cliches, they're going to do it. And so in my building, somebody asked me, do you have data meetings? I say every meeting is a data meeting. Don't tell me you're doing something if you don't have proof. Claim, evidence, reasoning is everything. And so if you're in here loving kids, tell me why your outcomes aren't better. Mm-hmm. And if you can't tell me, then let's work on it. And then we can use that evaluation system. We can use coaching. We can use modeling. I'll come on right in there and show you how to love them and how to really make sure they're a success. Because right now, all you're doing is making yourself feel better. And we don't have time for that.
You said a word there. One of the things that resonated with me though, Doc, and by the way, to the audience, we're gonna go to about 1:00. So y'all hang in there with 1 Eastern, right? So y'all hang in there with us. We still got just a little bit more. I had Akbar Cook on, Principal Akbar Cook. He's the principal with the washers and the dryers and was on Ellen and all that kind of stuff, and the Lights On program. He was on about a couple months ago, and his kids came to school, but here's the difference. Strong leadership. See, so the washer, the dryer, the soap, and all that kind of stuff, but strong leadership. And now there's the incentive as opposed to providing, as you said, all the equipment, the appliances, right. But the leadership may not be strong.
And also in his context, though, he could have been doing empathy interviews and knew they needed that. I'm talking about the people who are watching him and like, oh, I'm gonna do that too, but they don't look at any evidence. They don't figure anything out. They're just like, oh, that guy did that and he was successful. I'm gonna do it too. That's that Pinterest teacher pay teacher mindset. You've got to look at the evidence and give folks what they need.
What they need. The data matters. And I always say, I got this synonym for the word data. And for me, the word is story. The data is your story. And you think about a story being contained in a book. So I'll say to the leader or the teacher, whomever it is, here, this data, this is your story, but your name is on the cover. How do you like the story that you wrote, right? And now that forces one to have to really look within. So that data in the classroom, for example, that's your book. You wrote it because you're the teacher. How you like that story? Maybe it needs some revising and some editing before it is published. Right. So, so just look at that word for me. It just tells gives a different perspective on what data is supposed to produce. Man, we getting there, y'all. Dr. Crawford, there's this passage you wrote in again, Fighting the Good Fight, Narratives of the African American Principalship, edited by Aaron Griffin and Isaac Carrier. You said, reflecting on my career as an educational leader, both as a principal and district middle school coordinator, I've come to accept and understand that adversity is a part of the work, as you said before. Any African American school leader who is at least reasonably conscious, which is my word instead of militant, who is reasonably conscious about the African American experience and the unique needs of our students, and bold enough to advocate for our children and schools, will definitely experience copious amounts of diversity. Amen. That's why I love this book. That's why I'm pushing this book so hard. I'm going hard on this, y'all. Fighting the good fight. If you don't have it, you need it. And again, I'm going to say, like I said before, I'm not talking to just Black folks on this call. I'm talking to anybody on this call, because we have to read each other's experience in order to gain understanding. So there's an experience that's unique to the African American principalship, leadership, that you need to know. So I'm pushing this book for anybody out there that's watching. So with that said, Dr. Crawford, my takeaway from that paragraph was that school leadership is not for everyone, as was said here earlier. It requires, in part, a spine, and also, as I preached, a deep sense of history. So with that said, my question to you is why is a centeredness in history and the experience of Black people, like a centeredness in history and the experience of Black people, essential for the Black principalship?
It has always been. Educate. We all know the value of education, and education is one true way for our people to thrive, survive, and thrive. So I think it right now becomes, with all of the attacks against critical race theory, which we don't even discuss in P12 schools, but it's the silencing. It's not about critical race theory. It's about the silencing. And so if current and future Black leaders buy into, we're not going to tell these stories, we're going to silence these people, our children are doomed. They are doomed. They will believe the Pilgrims were nice, friendly people. They will believe those enslaved Africans were willing workers who were just looking for better opportunities. They will believe the terrorists who stormed on January 6th were just tourists wanting photo ops with Congress people. And so our children are doomed. They're already not receiving the absolute best that they can have. And let me just say here, when we look at, because I think you actually said it, when you look at some of these schools, or one of you said it, that many of the people who make up the faculties and staffs in the schools, before a strong Black principal comes in, they generally are all white. You have a school that's 90+% Black students, and the staff is 90+ white students, white faculty and staff, who are getting their a reduction on their student loans and all kinds of other things. That's why they're there. They will say, the Lord sent me here, but the Lord doesn't send them to do anything else in that community. But they're at that school. And then when the loan is reduced, they transfer someplace else. We can't talk about those things, right? So we know that this whole CRT is just a push to further silence our children. And the danger is that once our administrators, Black administrators who should be conscious, it is actually an affront to Black students if you have a Black principal, in my opinion, an assistant principal, who is not a conscious Black person. It is an affront, because if you're not conscious and you're not authentically Black in and out, if you're not going to fight for children the way they need. You will just accept whatever it is. And Dr. Andrews has said, we all are employees, so we have to follow the mandates of the district. But if you're not, if that's not who you are, you're not going to fight for what our children really need. And so, but you have to know it comes with the price. It's all about how you treat people who you are and how much you're willing to take. And if you're I think I heard you say spine, you have to have a mind and a spine.
Yeah.
If you don't have both of those, you're in trouble, and your children are in trouble.
You know, that was you said something, you said a lot there, but what I found most profound is just having that historical foundation toward understanding, knowing the young people that you lead in the first place. I might even say knowing and understanding some of the staff that you lead, because they products are the same, the same experience, right? So I appreciate that. We're winding down, folks. I got Dr. Andrews on this last one. In your essay, Doc, you talked about the preparation of the assistant principal for the principalship. And, you know, that's my baby right there. That's why this platform exists in the first place. That's why I've gone hard for 111 weeks of doing this. And that's including all the preparation, because it's not just getting on here winging it, right? So when we talk about the preparation of the AP, looking at that Black assistant principal who is a full-time disciplinarian, right, and not exposed to the fullness of school leadership, what are this person's options toward acquiring this much needed experience and exposure? And let me just say this before you answer the question, Dr. Andrews. I'm thinking about the assistant principal that has been assigned, let's use a round number, 20 teachers to supervise. And with the core of it, of leadership being instructional leadership, in my strongest opinion, right? So if I'm assigned to 20 teachers, I'm the coach, I'm the instructional leader, but I'm a full-time disciplinarian. I'm going back to the question now. I'll even read it again. As a full-time disciplinarian, not exposed to the fullness of school leadership, what are this person's options toward acquiring this much needed experience and exposure? Because this person might become a principal and knows nothing.
I'm on fire, Doc. Woo!
Woo!
I'm glad you asked that question. You know why? Because I'm going to tie this to this. We always tell, and this is my professional answer now, Wilbert Andrews right now, not Wilbert Andrews as a new principal that told somebody one day, I wouldn't put your own kids in your classroom. You know, I did, and I was in the superintendent's office 3 hours, so I learned. But what it is, you have to take advantage of every opportunity that you have to interface with your kids and your students, period. That will not occur if you're hiding in the office all day handling referrals, period. The procedures and processes I use, if you're looking for it, and this is something that everybody could use, and Doc, I don't care, I won't sue y'all. Y'all can go ahead, I'll license you to do it. You have to be where the bulk of the kids are. You have to be where the action is. You will not have discipline problems if you're, as an AP, if you are seated in those hallways on a daily basis and not in that office, period. You would be surprised at the number of referrals that you will not have to deal with, because the kids and the teachers know consistently that my assistant principal is based right outside that classroom at a moment's notice or whim. So that's out of the equation, period. You have to be where the action is. If you are in the hallways monitoring what's going on, I should not hear a pin drop in my hallways, in my school, period. Any distractions. Matter of fact, as part of what I do, we don't even use bells, because the bells don't dismiss kids. The teachers dismiss kids when that lesson cycle is done. You have to be where the action is. That'll take care of discipline. Now, watch this. Do you know how far that would go for that assistant principal on how to work with people and people skills if I could spend most of my time being a collaborator with that teacher and helping that teacher be successful by being in that hallway right there? Number one, you have won that teacher over, period. Now that teacher can teach. Now I can go to phase 2 as an administrator. I can get in that classroom and show that teacher where they may be shortfalling and why the kids are not picking up on this concept right here. Now I can be a true instructional leader, not a person putting out fires. So I guess the word would be, you need to be proactive and not reactive. I'm not going to sit in no office and wait for a referral to hit me. I'm going to be where the action is, and we won't even have this issue. And now as an assistant principal, I could work on being an instructional leader by coaching the teachers, true coaching the teachers, and not working referrals on instructional strategies that will help that kid hit that point of mastery in that classroom.
That's a powerful response, and I know that there's a lot of folks out there that appreciated everything you said regarding that question. You know, we've come to the end of the conversation, but we got the rapid fire, what I call my BAM questions. But before I do, I want to throw this up again: Fighting the Good Fight. These are 3 of the 30 some odd authors of this book. You can get it on Amazon right now. Powerful book. Narratives of the African American Principalship, edited by Dr. Aaron Griffin and Dr. Isaac Carrier. Get your copy now. Let's go to these rapid fire. I got the first 7 questions to Dr. Howard, the next 7 to Dr. Crawford, and the final 6 to Dr. Andrews, and then all of us with the very last question. 1-word answer, 1 sentence max. If you find yourself going into sentence 2, 3, and 4, check yourself, right? It's rapid. Here we go. Dr. Howard, first 7 for you. Is education on the right path for underserved children?
No.
Can true equity occur in America's schools for Black, brown, and other underserved students?
Yes, with intentionality of leadership.
Does your work, Dr. Jamika Howard, contribute to the progress we desperately need?
Yes.
If you could do a reset on your life, would your line of work be different or the same?
Absolutely not. I was born for this.
Why do you continue to do this work?
Because I get to spend my days with the best people in the world.
What fires you up within the work that you do?
Those same little people. All my favorite people are under 5 feet tall.
I like that. What do you love about the work you do?
I love that kids like me get to grow up to be people like me.
Beautiful. Dr. Crawford, next 7 of yours. What do you like? What do you dislike about the work you do?
I dislike the feeling of not being able to solve everybody's problem.
What has been your greatest victory in this work?
Relationships with students, parents, and teachers.
What was your greatest mistake in this work?
Not being as political as I should have. Politics.
What has been your greatest challenge in this work?
Being an authentically proud Black man.
Are you proud of your first year as an assistant principal?
Absolutely.
Are you proud of your first year as a principal?
Absolutely.
Who inspires you in this work?
Mostly the children and the families I work for.
Next 6 is yours, Dr. Andrews, and then we'll all take this last one.
I told you I feel like D.L. Hughley.
Yeah. You know, the contract, Monique got the headliner, you know, so that's you. That's what the contract.
Look, I get 6 questions. They got 7. You see what I'm talking about?
Here we go. What are you reading right now, Doc?
Right now, I'm reading Getting to Excellence. Look, Getting to Excellence. This was my first publication on school turnaround.
Oh, okay. What book do you recommend for our viewers?
Ooh, goodness gracious. Dr. Kunjufu's book, 100 Strategies to Address African American Students.
Love it. What do you want to accomplish that you haven't accomplished yet?
Parasailing. No, honestly, I want to be the assistant superintendent over teaching and learning in some district. That's what I want to do.
Are you satisfied with where you are professionally right now?
Absolutely not.
What would you say to a viewer out there who continues to face closed doors?
Keep trying, keep knocking, one will open.
What would you say to a viewer out there who's lost their fire?
Go have a Coke and a smile, get you some sleep, eat some popcorn, wake up the next day, and continue to fight.
There you go. And then the last one, I'm going to give it to you first. If Dr. Wilbert Andrews was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
Hard-headed.
Dr. Howard, if Dr. Jamika Howard was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
Equity plus efficacy plus expectations equals excellence.
And Dr. Crawford, if Dr. Raphael Crawford was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
Resilient.
Resilient. I love it. Hey, folks, we took it 2 hours. I appreciate you. This was dynamite. This was extraordinary. This was phenomenal. I loved it. Once again, to the folks out there fighting the good fight, these are 3 of the writers in the book, along with the others. And every second Saturday, I'll have a different set of 3, except for August. I want you to tune in every second Saturday. We're talking about perspectives on leading while Black. I want you all to tell the folks how they can contact you. If you got any products you sell, if you got any services you sell as a consultant, I want you to tell them all that. And I'll cue yours up, Dr. Andrews, because you had sent me that. But let us know. I'll start with ladies first. Dr. Howard.
I am on Twitter at Doc Howard JCPS, and email is always the best way to get a hold of me, or Twitter, and that's about it for me on social media.
All right. See, so you still working on that social media thing?
Well, when you work, you're still actively working as an educator, you got to keep the kids out your business.
Yeah, that's
so,
right. You got that right. You got that right. Dr. Crawford.
On Twitter, it is at Dr. Raphael C. I can also give you my personal email address. That's my lifeline. Raphael Crawford 06 at yahoo.com.
Excellent. And then Dr. Andrews, I put you on the ticker on the bottom. I couldn't fit the email address, but I'm assuming it's on the website. So let them know everything you got to offer there and your contact information.
What I'm doing right now is I am building a coalition of strong educators right now. My plans is to start a homeschool platform in August. Any educator out there who are interested in participating with me, you can go to the Mathematics Plus Cognition Center. Look at that's my business, but the initial shelter is called culturally responsive learning network. And I am building a coalition of educators like myself, and we're going to start a homeschool network in August. If there will be all you need to do is be ready to present your plan with me. If you wish to join me, I invite everybody to go to www.learningwithdrzero.org. Look at the website, contact me, because I want to build these networks and keep us in a coalition, because guess what? We can go ahead and we can fix a lot of this stuff together.
All right. Appreciate it. Look here, folks. And the regulars, you know where I'm going. If the content resonated with you, if this was a beneficial time that you were with us, regardless of how much time, hit me with the emojis. Let them know. Give me some fire. Give me some hearts. Give me some whatever it is that you use, your favorite emojis. Put it in the chats, please. We're on 4 platforms. We're on YouTube at Virtual AP Leadership Academy, Facebook at Principal Kafele and Virtual AP Leadership Academy, and Twitter at Principal Kafele. So let them know if you found this beneficial today. Here come that fire. I see it, man. I see some bombs. I see some black hearts. I see some hundreds. Yeah. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. That's the applause. My wife just put some hearts in there. Yeah. Keep that fire coming. Let them know.
Hey, Mama.
Oh, that's good.
My mama's in here.
I hear that. Good afternoon. Yeah, keep it coming. Keep it coming. Let them know, man. People come on here and give all this information for free. let them know that it was appreciated, man, because they were dropping some bombs, some gems all day. And as I always say, when it's hot like that, hey y'all, you hit it out the park, man. You hit that grand slam. I'm gonna be discreet when I say this to one of y'all. You know, I got this when I was speaking out in Louisville, and Sister Jessica Jones gave me this, man. Put my name on it, right?
Jones, that's my boo. Yes.
Yeah, well, you know, I was being discreet now. So no, I mean, because you didn't have, you know what I mean. Not for me. All right, so yeah. So they gave me this last summer, man, because they know, you know, I wear my Negro League. I got my Kansas City Monarchs today. Satchel Paige, Buck O'Neal, Buck Leonard, Jackie Robinson, and so many others that played for that team. So hey y'all, look here. This won't be the last time. I appreciate you immensely for being here. Could you stay on for a few while I just close out? I want to talk to you offline. So everybody, thanks for being here. Let me give you these quick announcements. Next week, I got my man Pete Hall's going to be on with me. He's a principal extraordinaire and an ASCD author. He'll be my guest. Make sure that every Saturday morning on Facebook Live, beginning at 10 o'clock, Sean Hurt, Principal Hurt, at 10 o'clock, followed by, and this is Eastern time, Create and Educate with Dr. Sheikah Houston and Tammy Taylor at 10:30. My man Josh Tovar on Sundays at 7 with Dean Packard, and then Village Leadership Group on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 with Dr. Roz Gaskins and Coach Williams. Make sure if you haven't picked up yet, get yourself my newest one, the Equity and Social Justice Education 50, the Assistant Principal 50, which this is, for whatever the reason, this is the hottest book I've ever written, right? Get yourself a copy. Everybody seems to be buying that one. And then the Aspiring Principal 50. I'll show you the other books another time, man. I ain't going to waste all your time like that. Make sure that you subscribe to the Facebook page, Virtual AP Leadership Academy. I write a commentary every Sunday morning. This will be number 70, right? So make sure that you like and follow that page so you can get the commentary, because I don't post it anywhere else except on that page. Subscribe to the Virtual AP Leadership Academy YouTube channel. Those of you that may have missed the previous 110 sessions, just go to the channel, binge watch. It's about 160 hours of content on there. Just go right to the channel and binge watch them all. Everything on there is quality stuff. And then your diet, man. Take care of yourself. That exercise, take care of yourself. And COVID precautions. Do I wear the mask everywhere I go? No. But when I'm on that airplane, it's on. Right? So just make sure you're taking care of you. Right? And I might say, if anybody's on that plane and you on there with me, put your mask on to protect me from you. I'm on the plane the other night and somebody is coughing up a storm. I'm like, you coughing with no mask? I wanted to say something, but I ain't want to be fighting on the plane and be on somebody's YouTube video. But if you're on the plane coughing, throw the mask on, man, sneezing, whatever it is, as opposed to subjecting everybody else on the plane. That little thin tube of a plane, and you subjecting all of us to it. So with that said, thanks for being here. Join me next Saturday at 10:55 Eastern time. Have a great week. Have an extraordinary week. Have your best week yet. Peace. Peace. Thumbs up. Cock that fist back. 1, 2, 3. Bang. I see y'all next Saturday.